Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Cuz You Don't Know Football. That's right. Today I had to throw on the shades and let y'all know what's going on inside of here. You see? But no, today we got another crazy episode for you. We're gonna be talking about those West teams. We're gonna talk about the AFC West and the NFC West. And I got a new guy on here. Y'all gonna love him. Listen, y'all gonna love him. I can't wait for y'all to meet him. It's my boy Jeremy. My man is doing big things out here. He's doing
What's
big
going
things.
on, man? How you doing?
Jeremy, what's going on, baby? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Looking good, bro.
Yo, I
That
appreciate the man. You
that
always
South
looking
American
smooth. You
sun
see,
is
I had to
treating
be
you
extra
well.
smooth. I had to be extra smooth because you was coming on today.
I love it.
Jeremy, man, welcome to Cuz You Don't Know Football, man. As I was telling everybody else today, of course, we're in our way too early playoff prediction. See, this is a segment that I always love to do because I like to talk my shit before, a long time before, just to show our prowess.
I
But I know
like
you
it.
one
I
of
like
them,
it.
so I can't wait to hear what you got to say. So today we're going to be talking about the West teams, the NFC West and the AFC West, and then you're going to give me your playoff prediction, and I can't wait to hear all of it.
I'm excited for the AFC West, man. As you know, I'm a big Charger fan, diehard football fan for a long time. So I'm willing to hit you with the playoffs right now. So, I think the AFC West probably one of the toughest divisions in the league, but I think these guys are all going to improve from their time last year. I have the Chiefs, Broncos, and the Chargers all going to the playoffs from the AFC West.
Wow, that's
Uh,
crazy.
to round out the rest of my AFC, I think the Bills make it out of the East. I don't think any of the other teams there, Miami, Patriots, or Jets, did enough to do it. Out of the South, I have the Texans coming out. Similar thing, man. Titans, Jags, Colts. I just don't think have what it takes to make the playoffs. And out of the North, I got the Ravens and the Bengals this year. No Steelers.
Okay,
No
well, we're
Aaron,
gonna
no
do
Aaron
it that
Rodgers
way.
magic this year.
You see, I told y'all my boy was. See, we usually did it the other way around, but I'm happy that you did it that way. Now we can just get this out the way.
I'm coming in with the heat, man. I did my research.
All right, cool. So you said, all right. So in the AFC, you said, so who's going to win the West? First of all, who's going to win the West?
I think the West is probably going to be the Chiefs again.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but it's been, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 years in a row. And, while they didn't do too much this offseason, I think they're still the preeminent team in that division. So I think the Chiefs come out and still win the AFC West.
Okay. So you got the Chiefs in the West. You have the Texans in the South.
Correct.
You have in the North. Who did you say you had in the North?
Ravens and the Bengals, I think, are both going to come out.
Okay, so the
Bengals,
Ravens, so
Bengals
the
in the
Ravens,
wild card.
so the Ravens is going to win the North, and in the East you got the Bills. So your
For
wild
sure.
cards are the Bengals, the Chargers, and the Broncos.
Correct.
Okay, okay, that's interesting. All right, cool. So in the East, so tell me, so you got Philly in the East. Um, you
I got Philly winning the East, but I got the Cowboys making the wild card too. No
okay?
playoffs for the Commanders this year. That's my hot take.
Oh, we gonna talk about that. Okay,
Yep.
so all right, so you got Eagles in the East, you got in the North, the NFC North.
Lions,
Okay, you got Lions in the North, you got the in the NFC West, you got the Rams,
49ers,
you got the Niners in there. Okay, okay, and in the South, you got
Falcons.
Falcons in the South. Okay, this is new. Okay, this is what I like. I like the new stuff. All right. So then you got the Cowboys making the playoffs. And who are the other two wild cards?
Cowboys are making the playoffs. I think they stay healthy. I think Dak and Pickens and CD and they make it happen. And I think the defense will look better once they sign Parsons. I got the Packers in the wild card spot. And the next one's tough because I think it's either going to be the Bucks or the Rams, but I'm going to go with the Rams. I think the Rams got one more year of Stafford. I think the Buccaneers overachieved last year, and Tristan Wirfs, their big left tackle, being out for the first 4 or 5 weeks, I think is going to hurt them pretty bad. I think those receivers are a year older. Their defense really didn't do too much as far as additions this year, so I think the Bucks are going to fall out. But it was a toss up for me between the Bucks and the Rams for that last wild card spot.
Okay. So mine sounds a little different than yours, but I'm gonna just give you my
Let's hear it,
playoffs.
man.
And you're gonna there's some of it you're gonna be like, okay, let's hear it. But let's do it. All right, so in the NFC, I got the Eagles in the East. I got the Packers in the North. Um, I got the Bucks in the South, and really the Bucks in the South is really just I don't trust any of the teams in the South. They're just the most well-rounded. They have the most camaraderie. They're the strongest, I want to say, unit in having unity and knowing each other. So same head coach, same quarterback, same system, same, you know what I mean? All of those things play into that. Why I said that. Falcons though, I mean they could. I mean, we'll see. In the West, I got the Rams winning the West. Okay. So then I have the Commanders as one wild card. Uh then I have the Lions as one wild card. But the Lions is on my list though. I'm gonna be honest with you. It would not shock me that the Lions did not make the playoffs. You know more than anybody else. You know more than anybody else. When you change a coordinator, that's the culture. You know what I mean? That's the culture that you change when you I mean the offense like when the offense isn't running right, the quarterback is talking to the coordinator. He's not talking to the head coach. So the culture of the offense and defense is a coordinator. And a lot of units, they lose a coordinator and they're just not the same. Well, they're replacing both of their coordinators. And
What do you
I'm
think
not
about
sure about
Tampa
that.
Bay losing Liam Cohen, man?
I understand that, but the rest of their team is the same. They brought everybody else back. I
Sure.
understand what you're saying, but like the unit was still the unit. You know, I have questions about the Lions, but I think they'll still make the playoffs. And my final team is actually the Cardinals. I got the Cardinals getting into the
Okay.
playoffs. So I heard you say that the 49ers. I'm not a Brock Purdy guy, and I think um his roster is no longer strong enough to support what he has to do to carry them, and I don't see the success that everybody else feels.
The reason I like the 49ers is they have the easiest schedule in the league.
I just, I mean, that's,
And
but that's,
I
but you
think
also
they'll
got to
ride
keep in
that to a
mind,
win.
but you got to keep in mind that six new teams make the playoffs every year. So it's a weaker schedule based off of who missed the playoffs last year. A bunch of six of them are going to make the playoffs this year. So now
Sure,
they're going
sure.
to, it seems like an easy schedule, but it's not actually an easy schedule. Like it's going to flip. Um, but in the AFC, I got the Bills in the East, I got the Ravens in the North, I got the Texans in the South, and I got the Chiefs in the East.
Yeah.
Now, um I have the Broncos in as one. I have the Colts in the playoffs
Ooh,
as a wild card. And I have oh, you gonna hate this one. I got the Bengals coming in, man. So
yeah.
once again, I got to tell you.
We're almost in step there. We're
Listen,
almost in
listen.
step there.
I just got to say, like y'all, it's gonna be y'all or the Bengals for me as it, but I'm the reason why I'm going with the Bengals is because I told you this when we weren't even on this. I told you. Man, your Chargers have burned me over the years, and every single time I felt like they were supposed to take a step, take the leap. They finally got it together. They do some Charger things, man, and I don't know how you feel about that. You probably like me a little bit less right now, but I'm telling you, I don't feel good about the Chargers, and it has nothing to do with talent or coaching or anything like that. It's just the culture is. I got to see a culture change.
I think we saw it last year. I'm a diehard Charger, but I'm also a realist. But I think the Chargers improved their roster. They didn't have a couple big losses, but I think their offensive lineman Becton coming in from Philly is going to make a huge difference. Obviously these guys want to run the ball, and the problem last year is we couldn't run the ball. So now we
Okay.
have Hampton, we have Najee, we have Mekhi Becton in there. We brought in Andre James, the center from the Raiders, so we got a couple guys we can mix around on the left guard spot and the center spot. But we got one of the best tackle duos in the league, and with Becton in there now, I think that'll change the game for us. I definitely wish we did a little more as far as trying to find some receiver help for Herbert, but we'll see what Trey Harris can do. We'll see what Conklin can do, and I think the defense will look improved as well. Their defense was much better than people expected last year, and I don't expect that to change much. We brought in a lot more depth, so as long as we can stay healthy, I think we'll squeak in for sure.
Okay. That sounds good, man. Well, those are the playoff predictions. I like this. This feels new. This feels new. I'm gonna be honest with you. This feels new. Uh, so let's go ahead and let's just do outlook of everybody's offseason and the NFC West teams and AFC West teams and just see where we feel about the state of where they are. So I figured let's just make it easy. Let's start with the first team on everybody's list if you go alphabetically, the Arizona Cardinals. Uh so in their offseason, their biggest additions were Josh Sweat. They had Josh Sweat, excuse me. Dalvin Thompson, defensive tackle, and Akeem Gather, inside linebacker. Their biggest losses were Naquan Jones, defensive lineman, Roy Lopez, and Chris Tonga. Not really much that they really honestly lost. Now their draft picks, of course, we do the first three, and then but if you looked at another draft pick that was later and you wanted to bring it up, by all means, bro, bring it up.
Sure.
So in their first round pick, they got defensive tackle Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. In their second round, they got Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. And in their third round, they got Jordan Birch, edge rusher from Oregon. So tell me I'm wrong about the Cardinals making the playoffs. Go ahead.
Yeah, man. Look, so before we started, I did kind of what I felt were my rankings of both the draft and the offseason. I thought the Cardinals had the second best draft in the NFC West, but I picked them for having the best offseason in the NFC West. So definitely a lot of momentum there. All the guys you mentioned, they also picked up Zay Jones, some more receiver help. So I think the Cardinals did a lot. Will Johnson was huge. I mean, him falling to the second round, I think a lot of guys had him in the top 20. Maybe some minor injury concern, but they picked up a huge defensive haul, on draft night. And I think, these guys will certainly help them compete. Offensively, we'll see. I think Zay Jones can be that kind of wide receiver 2 with Marvin Harrison. Hopefully Marvin Harrison takes a step up. Obviously Trey McBride, arguably one of the best tight ends in the league. I think their offensive line leaves a lot to be desired. And, from all the everything I do as far as research and looking into teams and how teams succeed, you got to be good in the trenches. And having a not so good offensive line, especially with a guy like Kyler, who I think super talented, obviously very athletic, but extremely inconsistent. I think that's really where it's going to hurt them the most. They did not address that offensive line at all. But, a defense that really wasn't good could be looking a lot better with those guys they added on the D line. So I think this team will be super competitive. Personally don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but like I said, I think they did the best offseason out of all these teams in the NFC West.
All right. So got a quick question for you. Just real
Sure.
quick question. If I was to ask you, what do you think Arizona, without looking, what do you think Arizona's record was last year? With all that said, what was their record last year? What do you think?
Ooh, I don't remember what their record was last year, but I feel like they were pretty close to 500, maybe like 8-9 or 7-10 or something.
Yeah, no, that was really good. They were 8-9. So my point was, I look when we talked about Kyler Murray even last year, a lot of things that we were talking about. Remember they were talking about video games and stuff like that. A lot of that stuff kind of went away. Like he matured a little bit more. Now I look at him and I look at what they were able to do with no offensive line, way less of a defensive line, figuring stuff out. The guys that were rookies are now second year players. You know what I mean? And even that offensive line, they may not be better, but they didn't lose pieces, so they at least know how to play together. I think there's a huge step forward that can be made with a quarterback who I think is the second best quarterback in this division. That's my opinion. I really like what Arizona was able to do this offseason. And yes, I really feel good about them going into the playoffs.
I think this division is being slept on in general. I don't think there's really any bad teams in this division. I think the issue, at least in kind of my overall broad view of this division, is I don't really think any of these 4 teams are a super top heavy talented team. I think they each have some good guys. The teams are all pretty kind of, call it down the middle of the fairway, but no one on really any of these rosters sticks out to me as top talent, unless you're talking about, Kittle and Puka and Devontae Adams. And, again, these guys, none of them, they're not bad players, obviously, but I just think the overall talent and depth on the Cardinals is going to end up biting them a little bit. James Conner's another year older. He's a guy with injury history. They don't really have a good backup to him. Marvin Harrison, obviously you hope he takes that next step, but if that doesn't really come to happen, their receiving core
Yes,
is not great.
of course. There's some
So I think
projections
that
with
offense
everything.
could certainly struggle, and defensively, look, they've struggled in the past, and they've tried to add some pieces, and hopefully they have, but the secondary also is not very good, and Buda Baker's another year older, so we'll
Hmm.
see. I think it's a
We'll see.
very, call it mid roster, and I expect them to finish kind of in that same realm, somewhere in that 7-10 to maybe 10-7 tops, but I probably see him on the lower end of that, and that's why I had him out of the playoffs.
Okay, that's not a problem at all. All right, we're gonna keep this ship moving. Let's stay in the NFC West, and let's go to the other end of the alphabet. Let's go to Seattle. All right, we're gonna talk about these Seahawks real quick. So, of course, their biggest additions were Sam Darnold, quarterback, Cooper Kupp, wide receiver, and Demarcus Lawrence, defensive end from the Cowboys. And their biggest losses, they lost Geno Smith, they lost DK Metcalf, and they lost Tyler Lockett. Um, so with their draft, they got in their first round pick, they got Gray Zabel, offensive guard from North Dakota State. They got Nick Emirwari, safety from South Carolina, and they had a second round pick, um, Elijah A, tight end from Miami. They also got Jalen Monroe in the third round too, the quarterback from Alabama. So where we at with the Seattle Seahawks? None of us have talked about them yet. So
Sure. So I ranked Seattle as my number two off season in that division. Despite them losing DK and Geno, I think they set themselves up pretty strongly for the future. Zabel's going to be a plug and play guy. Same thing with Amenwari. Amenwari's another guy that I think people expected to be a first round pick, and he kind of fell to them. Jalen Milroe and Elijah Arroyo, super talented guys. Arroyo could step in and actually start now that they released Noah Fant. And I think, trying to get a guy like Milroe who could be, I'm not going to call him the next Lamar Jackson, but he plays Lamar Jackson-esque. I think they really set themselves up well for the future. Seahawks are another team I kind of flirted with potentially making a wild card, but I think losing Geno was just too much for him. Darnold kind of fell into the perfect situation with Minnesota, but I'm not going to take that year he had in Minnesota and extrapolate that. Darnold has not been a great quarterback in the past. And coming to this offense, they have a new offensive coordinator that's going to run a lot more. Darnold doesn't have the weapons that he had in Minnesota. Jackson Smith and Jigba is really their only good offensive player,
mhm.
only good receiver on that team. He'll get peppered with targets, but Ken Walker's good. But again, I think the biggest issue for the Seahawks, again, offensive line. They did pick up Gray Zabel, but they have, I think, one of the bottom 5 offensive lines in the league from some of the rankers that I've seen online. Defensively, Demarcus Lawrence is great, but the rest of their defense, just not really much there. Excited to see Nick Emenwari play because that dude is a freak athlete.
Mhm.
I think his combine testing was like some of the most athletic they've ever seen from the safety position. But again, just another roster I think is just very average, and another team that I expect to finish in that, call it 7-10 to 9-8 range,
Gotcha.
and end up missing the playoffs. But I do like what they did this offseason. I think they set themselves up well considering what they had to lose.
Yeah. So I have one thing, it's a major problem that I have with the Seahawks, what they did this year. They did what I consider to be the fatal flaw. It's when you pay top of the league money, top of the league quarterback money to a pretty good quarterback. You see, that will always set your franchise back. I think this year could have
You're
been a
being
very
nice
good.
there too. Pretty good's
Listen,
a little bit of a stretch for me.
listen, I feel as though they could have did a big service to themselves by just simply saying, okay, we're not going to get the quarterback that we want to have. Let's just use what we have. Let's build it on to for next year and that. So them being 7-10 or 8-9 and missing the playoffs, that's not a better to me. If you're building towards the future, that's not a better scenario than just honestly going winning 5 or 6 wins. And I think winning 5 or 6 wins would actually set you up better for the future because now you get more draft capital. Now somebody else is going to come loose. Now you're going to be able to look at this upcoming draft. Maybe you can move because you're already down there. Maybe you can make a move for the quarterbacks that are already coming into to next year's draft. And next year's draft is a very
Yeah,
good
I was about to
quarterback
say
draft.
this is the year to tank. Sure.
So what I'm saying is they put themselves in a situation where now they're gonna be too good to get what they need, and they're not gonna be good enough to be worth talking about too much. You know what I
I
mean?
agree.
That's why I'm not even really gonna spend too much time talking about them. That I feel as though that's always the fatal flaw. That's my pet peeve with
I'm
GM.
with you on that one for sure.
Um, all right, cool. So let's jump on over to the AFC West now. Let's see what's going on over there.
All right.
Let's start at the bottom. Let's talk about the let's talk about the Raiders. Uh Formerly the Oakland Raiders, now the Las Vegas Raiders. You know, it's funny because and I said that because I was looking for them and I'm like, where's Oak? I'm like, oh yeah, they're Las Vegas now.
I can't stand the Raiders, man, but funny enough, and you're about to point it out, I actually think they had by far the best offseason in the division.
Interesting. Okay. Well, let me get to their biggest transactions. Hold on. All right, Las Vegas. Okay, here we go. All right. So their biggest additions were Geno Smith, Raheem Mostert, and Jeremy Chin, safety. All right, and their biggest losses, they lost. Did they lose anybody worth talking about? Nope, they didn't lose anybody worth talking about, to be honest with you. Now in their draft, they drafted, of course, in the first round, number 6 pick, Ashton Genty, running back from Boise State. They got Josh Beck, wide receiver from TCU. In the second round and third round, they got Darian Porter, cornerback from Iowa State. So you said they had the best offseason out of anybody, huh? Tell me about that. Tell me more.
So they got Pete Carroll.
Hmm.
Um, I think bringing in a coach of that caliber has to count for a lot.
Hmm.
That's a game changing move. Culturally, for the players, when you bring in a coach of that caliber and that name, that's, you know, and the Raiders haven't had a great coach in a long time. So I think you got to talk about Pete Carroll when you talk about their additions. They also brought on Jamal Adams from Seattle. He came around with Pete Carroll. Getting a guy like Geno in there, best quarterback they've had since Derek Carr, possibly even before, depending on how you rank Geno. I actually think he's probably a better quarterback than Carr. Um, that's game changing stuff. New QB, new coach. Obviously, their draft, which I ranked second out of the AFC West, but Genty, Jack Besh is great. They also got a couple good offensive linemen late in the draft. And while I don't think the Raiders are near playoffs, I think they've improved drastically. And I think again, getting that coaching team in there and getting a guy that can actually play quarterback consistently, they're going to have a much better team this year. And I think they did a great job this offseason.
Now, I also feel as though they kind of did the fatal flaw thing with getting Geno Smith. However, the difference is if they run the ball and they got Ashton Genty and they got Raheem Mostert. If they're saying that's what we're going to that's the hill we're going to die on, then I think they can massively overachieve from what the expectations are of them.
They had a historically bad rushing attack last year. I think they
Yes.
averaged like 3 yards per
Yes.
carry, and that's because their quarterback was Aiden O'Connell and whoever the hell else
It
was
was
in
Gardner
there.
Minshew and
And
Aiden
they
O'Connell.
and teams were just stacking the box, and they couldn't do anything about it. And they're not going to be able to do that with
Yes.
Geno and Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers, who I think is going to have a breakout season. And so it should be interesting.
They can set themselves up for the future, but I want to see their contingency plan for getting another quarterback. That's the only thing I'm keeping an eye on. What's
They're
their
still the
contingency
Raiders. You never know.
plan? You know what I'm saying? I want to see their contingency plan for
Another
getting
big
another
thing,
quarterback. And if they run the ball, then I would say I know exactly what they're doing. This was amazing.
they did have a big loss this offseason. It's actually fairly new news, but Christian Wilkins, who was an
Yup, he got
incredible
he got.
D tackle,
Did you hear the story behind that?
apparently he kissed some guy on the
Yeah.
head.
He kissed somebody on the head and he didn't like it. He was like, "You got to go."
But I think they're saying that he didn't handle his recovery properly as well. And I think he's filing a grievance and typical Raiders stuff, you know?
Okay. Okay, cool. So we're gonna talk about another team that you're probably not gonna like.
Bring it on, man.
The Denver Broncos.
The
Uh,
Donkeys.
yeah, baby. Um, their biggest additions, they got tight end Evan Ingram from Jacksonville. They got the safety Talanoa Hufanga, the safety from the 49ers, and they also got Dre Greenlaw from the 49ers. And they lost Cody Barton, the linebacker, Javonte Williams, the running back. And if you want to call Zach Wilson a loss, but they lost Zach Wilson too.
Yeah.
Um, so their draft picks in the first round, they got Jedi Barron, cornerback from Texas. They in the second round they got RJ Harvey, running back from UCF. And in the third round, they got Pat Bryant, wide receiver from Illinois. What's up with these Broncos coming into this year?
Man, the Broncos got my number two out of best off season, and they had my best draft grade and out of the AFC West. Um, Broncos look great. My only concern with the Broncos is offense. They just re-signed Cortland Sutton. He's a guy that good receiver, but wouldn't really be the alpha receiver on any other team. They have Marvin Mims, but he hasn't really shown up anything yet. Evan Ingram has shown some potential, but I just don't think that offense has a lot of firepower. Granted, they have one of the best, if not the best, offensive lines in the league, which, as I said before, is something that a lot of people don't really look at when they think about teams and skills and how good a team's going to be. But super, super important. And their defense just got a whole lot better in the draft. They also picked up a couple of late round, really high end, a really high potential defensive linemen, Quadarius Robinson and Savion Jones. This defense could possibly be the best in the league as well. Adding Barron to Pat Sertan, bringing in Hufanga from the 49ers. They're going to have another incredible defense. And part of me almost wanted to give them the AFC West.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
I
know
can
if
see
they have
that.
the
I can
offensive
see that.
firepower for it, but Broncos are going to be very good, and it makes me very angry.
So one of my guys one of the special guests that I always bring on the show is my boy JB. He's a Broncos fan, and he's like, yes, Bo Nix is the guy for us. For instance, however you feel about Jalen Hurts, he's the right quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of they got so many people to make happy that you need somebody to say, I'm going to take the step back and make everybody happy. So in that kind of scenario, Bo Nix fits what they want to do, and they're very happy with having their quarterback. With that said, I think the Denver Broncos have the strongest combination of offensive line and defensive line in the NFL. I think they will control the trenches all year long. And that's why I'm so high on them. Um, and also I will say this to you. If you got the quarterback, I'm gonna be honest with you, I actually I actually don't mind not having great wide receivers. And actually I have a theory. My theory is if you want to go compete for Super Bowls, not having a top five wide receiver traditionally helps your chances to accomplish that. So not having a guy where defenses say, okay, to stop you, we're just going to double team him and we're going to take him away. And you're going to have to beat me doing something else. Not having that guy means the defense got to look at the whole field and say, all right, now we got to think of something for him, something little for him, little something for him. You know what I mean? And it really helps you out. So I'm not mad at what they're building as a wide receiver core. Um, they could go farther. If Bo Nix is the guy and there's no sophomore slump, and they're protecting him again. They need to, for me as a sophomore quarterback, you need to go in with the same strategy as you did when they were rookies. I'm going to protect you in the beginning of this season and make it easy for you because right now there's game footage of what Bo Nix wants to do right now, and every defense is saying that's what I'm going to take away. And if you put it all on him, that's where sophomore slumps happen because you got to rebound from something like that.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. So if they take it slower, I actually think come playoff time, they could go to the AFC Championship game. And that's how high I really do think they could be. Am I projecting that? No, not yet. I got to see some stuff. But that would not be the craziest thing that I've heard. This roster is very talented for me.
They're stacked, and like you said, it's funny. I remember when we talked about it a while back about that whole concept of paying that top wide receiver doesn't really set you up for the future because you're putting so much money on a guy that theoretically defenses can kind of lock down. I think the
Absolutely.
Patriots back in their day were that was their whole
Oh, that was
thing,
their
right?
shit. That
Belichick
was their shit.
took out the best player, and that's how they
That
were
was
able to
their shit.
dominate, right? So I agree with you on that one. I just my concern here with the Broncos, like you said, Bo Nix, we'll see what he's really made of. Um, but they're really lacking offensive firepower, and I understand that a great defense can do a lot of things. But if you get behind in games and you have to make a comeback and you got to score at the end of the quarter, at the end of the half, at the end of the game, I just don't think this offense really has guys that can go out there and break a big play. Mims supposed to be that guy. We'll see if he can do it. Sutton, I think, is fairly one-dimensional. And this running back room, we'll see what Harvey can do. He was a converted quarterback. He's probably not going to be able to block very well in pass pro. The rest of their running back room, not really much there. So we'll see what they can do. But I think the firepower is really what's going to hold them back from getting to that next level.
Okay, cool. Well, we're gonna fit one more in there. I always like to give myself a lot of time. So about 9 minutes, we're gonna fit one more in there.
Let's do it.
So we're gonna jump back over to the NFC West. We're gonna get to the San Francisco 49ers.
Cool.
So their biggest additions, they got Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver. They got Farrell, the tight end, and they also brought over Mac Jones. Now they lost Debo Samuels this offseason, and they lost Drake Greenlaw, and they lost Hufanga. Um, yeah, they lost a lot this offseason. So their draft picks, the number 11 pick, they got Michael Williams, edge rusher from Georgia. In the second round, they got Alfred Collins, defensive tackle from Texas. And in the third round, they got Nick Martin. All right, so if you would, let me go first on this one because I want to make a point.
Please go for it.
This is all right. So Brock Purdy, for everything that I've ever said about Brock Purdy, I'm not a Brock Purdy guy. I'm looking at him. I'm like, for the same reason people say what they say about Jalen Hurts. Look how much talent is around this kid for him to produce all that. He just has to not mess it up. Well, they lost all of these pieces to pay him. You see what I'm saying? So now that he's paid, and now he's paid what the most in the NFL. No, Dak is still the highest paid, but he's in top
He's
three.
up there. He's up there. Yeah.
He now has a roster with holes where before he didn't. And as a quarterback, as a great quarterback, you have to cover up the holes. Okay, the holes in your roster. I have huge concern on his ability to do that. Now, he was in the MVP race with all this talent. I'm like, well, it's easy to have numbers like that when that. Now there's tape on him. Now he's got a worse roster. I, I'm not seeing what everybody feels about. I didn't see it when he before, but I don't see what everybody feels with the hoopla is about this guy. And I need you to tell me exactly why with a worse roster. And they didn't just lose guys; they lost stars. You know what I mean? Guys that were at the top of the position in the NFL. He lost about like 4 or 5 of those guys. Why in the hell do you think that he's now able to take this roster and go to the playoffs?
Look, I know we kind of discussed this earlier about the schedule, but they do have a very weak schedule. I think they're still a solid team. Offensively, they still have a good offensive line. They still have Kittle. McCaffrey will hopefully be healthy. They have Ricky Pearsall, Jawan Jennings. They will be getting Brandon Ayuk back. So he still has a lot of weapons on the offensive side. Losing Debo. Debo's washed. Debo's washed. I'm going to say it.
We'll
He
see.
had one fantastic
We'll
year,
see.
but he had never gotten over 900 receiving yards in a season except for that one season he went
Mhm.
berserk, right?
Well, he's not a
He's
numbers
washed.
guy. He's an impact guy. He's not a numbers guy. He's an impact guy.
And he had no impact last year. And I don't think he's going to have much impact on the Commanders either.
Okay.
We can save that for another day. But
Okay.
I think their offense is still very much intact. And with the ease of that schedule, I think they'll be able to squeak out enough wins. Are they going to be a 12, 13 win team? No. But can they win 10, 11 games and still win that division? For sure. Defensively, I agree. They lost a lot of top defensive players. They were able to take care of some of that in the draft. They still have, the best middle linebacker in the league. They still have Nick Bosa. They still have weapons on defense. That secondary could cause them some trouble. But I think between having the easiest schedule, still having an extremely strong pass rush, and still having a lot of weapons on offense, I still think they're the top talent roster in this division, and I think they'll squeak it out this year.
See, and even when you say pass rush, I don't know if Nick Bosa is that guy anymore. I really don't know if he's that guy anymore. I mean, it happens, you know what I mean? But, I mean, defensive ends, a lot of them are great for a couple years, and then they're really good, but they're not that guy. You
He's
know what I
still the
mean?
best pass rusher in that division. I mean, Verse is super good on the Rams, but I
Yeah, I
think
don't
Nick
know about that
Bosa,
anymore. Jared
I
Verse,
think so.
I think he has that
And
now.
they brought Michael Williams. They brought in Alfred Collins. They went out and got defensive players. I mean, almost their entire draft was defense because they knew they were losing guys. And you're right, it's because they had to pay Purdy. But at the same time, I think that offense is still extremely potent. I think their defense still has enough weapons on the line at linebacker. Um, and like I said, I still think they're the best roster in that division.
And also, I could talk a little bit further on this because it's the last one we're gonna do before our break. Um,
Sure.
Also, so let me ask you this question. If I was to ask you, so last year, I'm looking at last year's roster for the 49ers, and I'm like, pretty much it's going to end up being the same thing plus some rookies. And you know what I mean? We'll see how far that really gets you. What record do you think the 49ers had last year?
Where were the 49ers last year? They didn't have a good record, if I recall. I think they only won 6 or 7 games.
They were 6-11. So you're telling me with basically the same roster and rookies, and Brock Purdy was there. You know what I mean? He had this is the roster he was doing this with. Now we're gonna go from 6 wins to possibly 10 wins, four or more wins. I'm not seeing it, man. I don't see this.
They had a down year. They were super injured. I think if they can stay healthy this year, I think they'll come out and win this division.
Okay, okay, I'm with you, man. You are definitely an aficionado, so I'm gonna rock with you on that. We'll just start that last segment over because we didn't get too far. So, of
All
course,
right.
we're doing the Kansas City Chiefs. In the Kansas City, their biggest additions, they had Jalen Moore, offensive tackle, and Christian Fulton, cornerback. And their biggest loss pretty much was Joe Thuney, the guard, and Justin Reed, the safety. Now their draft was in the first round, they got offensive tackle Josh Simmons from Ohio State. In the second round, they got Omar Norman Lott, defensive tackle from Tennessee. And then in the third round, they got Ashton Galletti, edge rusher from Louisville. Are they about to run your division again, man? Are the Chiefs going to run this thing again?
I think they will, but I was torn. We talked about it with the Broncos a little bit. I think they just have a much better roster. The Chiefs, they got my worst grade for offseason this year for the AFC West. I think they lost a couple big players. You obviously mentioned Thuney and Reed. They lost a couple defensive tackles as well, and McCole Hardman, who, more of a role player, but someone that Andy Reid and Mahomes trusted a lot. And in the draft, look, they reloaded on defense. Josh Simmons could be their starting left tackle of the future, which is obviously, as one of the most important positions on the field for a right-handed quarterback. Um, Norman Lott was actually one of the guys that I would have really liked the Chargers to try to go after. So look, their roster is still great from top to bottom. They still have,
Is it?
arguably I think it is, and they still have
Is
arguably
it?
one of the best coaching staffs in the league. Mahomes, despite his, not quite putting up the stats that he used to put up, call it 4 or 5 years ago, still in my opinion the best quarterback in the league, and it's not really close, just for the way he performs and his consistency. But look, I think they're finally starting to trend downward, or they've kind of reached their peak. Obviously, the whooping they took in the Super Bowl did some damage, but I wouldn't be surprised if this team came out and still won 11, 12 games. It's going to be a more difficult road for them. I think they won, what was it, 6 games by the last score last year. So, they're certainly not going 15-2 again or whatever they did, but this team's a double-digit win team no matter what. Again, I think they have the best coaching staff in the league, and with Patrick Mahomes and some of the weapons they have, kind of an upgraded receiver roster. I know Rashee Rice is probably going to miss a few games, but these guys are still going to be great. And I still think they have what it takes to win the division.
And that's basically been the exact thing that's been said about the Kansas City Chiefs for the last 3 years. So honestly, they probably had the worst offseason in the last 3 years and still somehow went to three straight Super Bowls and won two of them. Uh,
Definitely wouldn't bet on them to make the Super Bowl this year.
so
I think this year's certainly going to be the year of the Bills or the Ravens most likely, but they're still a great team. They're still going to be tough to beat. And, like I said, I think they'll still top out of the division.
this Super Bowl team, I think, has to overcome I don't know if there was a Super Bowl roster that was ever worse than the Kansas City Chiefs had the last three. All I know is they had Patrick Mahomes, and they had who I think is the most underrated defensive player in the league, Chris Jones, because I actually think he's the best for that reason. What else is on that defense? It's Trey McDuffie. I'll give you that. But there's never anything really worth talking about on the rest of this roster, and they're going to Super Bowls with this, and I think that's going very undersaid about anything. Like they should have not gone to any of the last Super Bowls with this piss poor roster, and they've gone to three. So I have nothing that I can look at. It's blown my mind. I don't know what to think about football anymore because of the
Oh,
Kansas City
man.
Chiefs, because this does not make sense. With that said,
I think the roster is better than you're giving it credit for, man. I mean,
no, it's not, man. No,
they've
it's not.
got two of the best interior linemen in the league,
Two?
Trey and Creed Humphrey.
They got two?
Two of the Creed Humphrey's the best center in the league, and Trey Smith maybe the best right
Okay,
guard in the
okay,
league.
fair enough, fair enough, fair enough.
They had Thuney. They have an up. They have new tackles now that could be good. Josh Simmons apparently is a really solid left tackle. I don't watch too much college, but he could anchor them.
I'm glad
Like
you
I
said
said,
that because I have to catch up after
you got
the season.
Mahomes, man. Mahomes best quarterback in the league, man, and he can
Hold on,
make
but don't
magic
forget Chris
happen.
Jones. It's been
Chris Jones has been the best defensive player in the league since what's his name on the Rams retired. For sure, I agree with you.
yes, since
For
Aaron Donald.
sure.
And
But
he was number two.
Karloftis is
I feel
very
like he was
good.
number two then, and I
Yep.
never even saw Aaron Donald cover up what was wrong on the defense like Chris Jones. Chris Jones, like they
He's a
don't have
disruptor, man. He's crazy.
anything. It's like
No, Karlaftis is good. Nick Bolton, their middle linebacker, is really good. McDuffie's one of the best shutdown corners. I think McDuffie had PFF's highest man-on-man grade this year. I mean, he's a lockdown corner. And look, the rest of their DBs leave something to be proved. They did get Christian Fulton this year. He'll be okay. But they got a good pass rush. They got good linebackers. They got Mahomes, a great offensive line. Pacheco's an underrated running back. Gray's an underrated tight end. Kelsey taking a step back, I think, is going to hurt them a little bit. But once they get Rashee Rice back and Worthy and Marquise Brown healthy, they got a ton of weapons. They still got Mahomes. And like I said, I think they got the best coaches in the business.
yeah, because we always love Sky Moore as a weapon for the Kansas City Chiefs. Moving on to the next team.
Sky Moore catching strays, man. That's brutal.
Oh, that was mean. You're right. All right. We're gonna go to the Los Angeles Rams, and we're gonna talk about what's going on with them.
All right.
Let's get on over there, get to these Rams, and then we're gonna get to your Chargers. And then we're gonna see what's up with that, Because I got to get some stuff off my chest. And that might take some time about your Chargers, okay? So the Rams. Okay. Their biggest additions: wide receiver Devontae Adams, Puna Ford, defensive tackle. Their biggest losses. And by the way, if it's something else that I didn't think about, by all means, bring that name up.
Sure, man.
Cooper Kupp, wide receiver. They lost Cooper Kupp. Bobby Brown, the third defensive tackle, they lost him. And Demarcus Robinson, the wide receiver, they lost him as well. Now, let's see what happened in the draft.
Terrible draft.
So in their draft, they did not have a first round pick. So in the second round pick, they have Terrence Ferguson, tight end from Oregon. In the third round, they got Josiah Stewart, edge rusher from Michigan. Michigan had a lot of defensive linemen going in this draft.
Ton of talent last year. Ton of them. I think they had like 12 or 11 seniors or
Yeah,
something. It was crazy.
yeah, it was crazy. And in the fourth round, they got Jaquez Hunter, running back from Auburn. So hold on, let me say something. Let me say something about this because you haven't heard me say this, okay? So when we talk about the GMing ability, right? Now, there's three teams that I have always said they've done the best job. There's a distant third because of what I really feel, but they went to three straight Super Bowls. That's the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so what that GM has been able to do to get them and maintain stuff, that's great. Number one is the Philadelphia Eagles for obvious reasons. That what that GM
Sure.
has been able to do, this is one of the greatest rosters we've ever seen. Okay, this roster can go toe to toe with any roster we've ever seen. Number
Agreed.
two for me is Los Angeles Rams. I think people is going under talked about. It's not being talked about as much because of what the Chiefs and the Eagles have done, but they mortgaged their future. Do you remember when they won a Super Bowl with Aaron Donald? People were like, "How are they paying for all of these players?" So usually when that happens, they're giving up picks. Their salary cap is struck. Teams, when you mortgage your future, you're bad for like the next decade. You know what I mean? Like you don't have first
Jared
round
Goff took
picks.
him to a Super Bowl.
Yes, yes. You know what I mean? But you don't have picks for the next, you know what I mean? A first round pick for like the next like 5 years. You know what I mean? Things like that. The fact of the matter is, ever since they've torn down that, the very next year, they've made the playoffs every single year since they mortgaged their future. What this GM has done to me has been so impressive, and I'm so excited for the Rams, and I really want to see what they have. Now, they can beat the Eagles and go to the Super Bowl, okay?
They were the one that got closest to
They
beating
got the
them last
closest.
year.
And I think they want to see them again. Not saying I'm not 100% calling it yet, but I definitely feel as though this is the biggest threat to the Philadelphia Eagles. And if they were the Super Bowl champion this year, I would not be shocked. That is their ceiling. They can win a Super Bowl this year. Uh but I can't say enough about the state of their roster and how their pieces fit together and how they've been doing this with second and third and fourth round picks and they don't have a first round pick and I for some strange reason all of this still might hit again. All of their picks might hit again. So tell me, so now you can tell me what you think about these Rams. And that's why I think they're going to win their division.
I think the Rams are, over the last couple of years, I don't think I've seen a team overachieve as much as the Rams. I
Hmm.
think Matt Stafford is a very underrated quarterback at this point of his career. Um, they've always had a solid receiving core. Kyron Williams is a guy that people didn't expect to be who he has been. Um, Although, I think there was a reason they drafted Jarquez Hunter. And their defense, I think, has always overperformed their names as well. Obviously, you got a hit in the draft versus one of the best defensive draft picks in a long time. But to me, even with the addition of Devontae Adams, which I think is huge, I look at this roster and just nothing impresses me. And I think you can only overachieve for so long before it comes back to bite you. And with another year of Matt Stafford, their offensive line didn't get any better and is probably on the downturn. Their defense didn't really get much better. I'm sad as a Charger fan that we let Poona Ford go, but he's also,
And
I think he's
he's been taking
31. He's an older guy. Their secondary is not very good. I think this is a prime candidate for a team that is going to finally miss the playoffs, truthfully. Stafford being older, Puka is an incredible player, but can't stay on the field fully. Devontae should help a little bit, but he's got to be 34 at this point, 35. And while I think his skill
I don't know
set, he
how
was never a
old he is.
speed guy. He's old, man.
I don't know
Look it
how
up
old
right now. But I mean, look, Devontae Adams has always been a guy that's won with his hands and setting up cornerbacks and running crisp routes. He's 32, so I overshot it a little bit.
Hey,
But
man, don't be putting that. Don't be putting mustard on Devontae Adams' jacket, okay? You
I
put
love
mustard on
Devontae,
his
man. I
jacket.
love Devontae. He's my round 3 fantasy target this year. So trust me, I love Devontae Adams, man. But again, I look at this roster and with another year of Matt Stafford and nothing really helping on the O line or on defense, I think they're my candidate to miss the playoffs this year. So they do overachieve. They have good coaching, but I don't see it coming together for them this year. I really don't.
Mm, I think you're gonna be wrong about that one. That one, I think.
Probably gonna be wrong about a lot of
Oh,
things,
listen, when
but
you come back on here, and you're gonna be on here sometime in like November or stuff like that, we're gonna be right back here, and I'm gonna bring up that you said France wasn't even gonna make
oof.
the playoffs, and you're gonna be like, this team is
By the way, they
looking.
squeaked into the playoffs last year.
You said they squeaked into the playoffs.
They squeaked into the playoffs last year. What was their record? 9-8,
The
10 and
Rams
7,
record, no, they were 10-7.
10-7. All right.
That's not a squeak.
But
Yeah.
they had to win. I think they had to win their last couple games, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, listen, I don't remember every week to week what they won, but I know I'm looking at it right now. They won 10 games. They were 10 and
They
7.
were they were in the wild card battle at the end. It was a close call, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
yes, because the
Regardless,
Seahawks also were 10-7 and they missed the playoffs.
Rams aren't making the playoffs this year, man. Take it to the bank.
And somehow the 49ers are, man. What's going on here now? Okay, you see? Now
We'll
you
talk
just
in we'll talk in November, bro. We'll see.
we will see. We absolutely will see. All right. We can now I just want you to know as I get over here to this, under any other situation, the Chargers would not be the last team I was talking about.
We could have
under
done this whole podcast on the Chargers, man. I'm ready to
under
go.
this would have been a long podcast, man. Under no circumstances, without you. And I want you to know this is how much I like this, is how much I wanted you to be here. I'm picking the Chargers last to talk about. The piece de resistance. You see? Oh man. Uh let's see what the Chargers got going on now, man. And and if you would, can I talk first also, man? Because I got some stuff to say to you about these Chargers, man.
Go for it, man.
All right, so let's go Chargers. Okay. So the Chargers, their biggest additions, they got Mekhi Becton, the offensive guard. They got Najee Harris, and they did get Mike Williams, but Mike Williams then retired.
He retired, man. Yeah, that was brutal.
Yeah, so they got him back, but then he retired. So I guess he was always hurt though. Really good player, but always hurt. But their losses, they lost Puna Ford, of course, and Christian Fulton was their biggest losses of the offseason. What you guys do in the draft? In the draft, with your first pick, you got running back from North Carolina, Omari Hampton. In the second round, you got Trey Harris, wide receiver, Ole Miss. And in the third round, you got Jamari Caldwell, defensive tackle, Oregon. Now, let me tell you something about your Chargers over the last couple years. No, I'm not even gonna say last couple years. You know, I used to go sports bet. I sports bet. Okay, that is one thing that I would do. If it was something else I would add to the show, it would be sports betting. I sports bet.
You and me both.
Every year I go into it and I say, all right, I'm the Falcons to a lesser degree, but the Chargers, I'm not. Those are teams I kind of stay away from because you always bite me in the ass. And then y'all do something and y'all look tremendous. And I'm like, wow, they're a lot better than I think that they are. And then it'll the game will line up. It'll be Chargers -3 against like the Browns. And you'll lose the game. I want you to know I lost about I off the top of my head I can name about $3,000 lost off of Chargers. That was the only thing that went wrong. So the Chargers, I got a lot of smoke with the Chargers. So yeah. So going into this year, now take that thought. Going into this year, I watched y'all the last couple years. We don't even talk. We wouldn't even be talking about Trevor Lawrence anymore had he not come back from like 25 points up against y'all in the playoffs. We wouldn't even be talking about Trevor Lawrence. That's the one thing that he got. Last year,
Felt the wound,
CJ, hold on. CJ Stroud was having a sophomore slump until he played y'all in the playoffs. And then he advanced to the playoffs. So I looked at Justin Herbert. I look at Justin Herbert, and of course, his numbers are crazy. His numbers are out of this world. His thing, he got to win in the playoffs. And when I say win in the playoffs, he's been to the playoffs twice. He's lost in the wild card round both times. I don't know what the mental block is for somebody that can throw for 4,500 yards like it's easy. He should be able to overtake and overcome whatever the flaws are on your roster. And I have not seen that from him. And that's what I'm saying culture. That's what I say culturally with the Chargers. It's hard for me to jump on there with you on that. But the talent is there. The talent's clearly there. The talent is there. The coaching is there. You got your quarterback. Tell me why y'all going to get to the playoffs.
Oof, man. Well, first thing, just to touch upon a couple other things. We lost Bosa, although Bosa's basically lost every season at some point, and
Hmm.
we lost Josh Palmer, who I don't care too much about.
Hmm.
Um, One thing that I really like that we did, as far as additions, um, we added Deshaun Hand, we added Tyre Tart, guys that could plug up the middle. We added Andre James, a good veteran center and guard. So we have a pretty solid offensive line battle for center and left guard right now between James Bozeman and Zion Johnson.
Hmm.
We also added Bradley St. Juice to help with cornerback, and we added Jalen Rager. So obviously, I'm going a little more in depth with the Chargers here since I've been following them to a T. But just before I get into why I think they're going to make it this year, um, just for context, I had them third on my list at the AFC West for best off season. Raiders and Broncos, I think, had better off seasons. I gave the Chargers my worst grade for the draft. Not saying we didn't draft good players. Truth be told, and I'll say this now, and I'm happy to say it. I might eat these words down the road for the rest of my life.
Hmm.
I was not happy about drafting Omarion Hampton.
Why'd you say
Um,
that? Why you say that?
I'll tell you right now. Well, first of all, again, I don't watch a lot of college. I knew that he was a freak and he could become the next major franchise running back for the team. But in my belief, I didn't think we should waste our first round pick on a running back. I wanted a defensive lineman or offensive lineman. That's how I feel personally. That's how I know that Harbaugh and Roman want to build this team from the trenches. And look, I'm happy we got a potentially generational running back, but I wasn't too happy with drafting him personally. Again, he could be the next LaDainian Tomlinson, and I could be choking on those words for the rest of my life. I'll be happy about it if that's the case. But I
Okay.
thought the Chargers didn't draft as well as I would have liked.
Okay, but
Um,
in all fairness, at the number 22 pick in the first round. Now, there's two things I don't like drafting. I don't like drafted in the late first round. The late first round. It's quarterbacks and it's pass rushers because if you need the guy, you need him to be the guy, and those guys are in the top five picks. So that's where you get them. So you say you didn't get it. Well, if you would have got a pass rusher at that pick in the 22nd overall pick, I'd be looking at him and saying he's probably just going to be okay. He might be good, but he's
I
probably just
wanted I wanted a defensive tackle or an offensive lineman. That's what I was really hoping for. And then when we drafted Trey Harris in the second round, I was even more upset because I was hoping we can get a good offensive lineman there. Trey Harris, a good receiver. I think he'll be fine, and we obviously need receiving help. One of my wishes for the next month is I really want the Chargers to go out and sign Amari Cooper. I think we really need another receiver that could be an X. Um, but it seems like these guys are happy with what we have.
hmm.
We'll see what happens. But for me, the biggest thing for the Chargers is our offensive line got better.
Hmm.
Um, I think the biggest issue looking back over the last few years is offensive line. Um, and you saw it in the game against the Texans. I'm pretty sure Herbert was pressured on over 60% of his throws. You can't win a game that way. You just can't. So I think that was a big reason why we lost there.
Hmm.
Our offensive line is much better this year. Slater was just
Hmm.
made the highest paid offensive lineman in the league, deserving. We got another year out of our right tackle. His name is not in my head right now for some reason, but he's going to be great. Joe Alt. Mekhi Becton, I think, is going to be a game changer for us because Harbaugh and Roman want to run the ball. And the problem last year, we could not run the ball at all. We had a little success with Dobbins at the beginning, but to do the
He got
Roman
hurt.
style
He got
offense,
hurt.
we got to pulverize the run. And the problem was by the end of the year, teams weren't worried about the run. So they could just play all their safeties out, stop the pass,
Okay.
and blitz and pass rush us to doom. So with Mekhi Becton in there, there's a big O-line battle going on with who's going to play center, who's going to play left guard. We got three guys now that we can interchange. Hopefully we'll figure out the best solution before the season starts. Obviously having Najee and Omarion should make us running significantly better. Lad McConkey broke out majorly. We got some new rookie receivers in. like I said, I really hope that we bring in one other veteran receiver. There's a couple good free agents left. Maybe it's Keenan Allen's return. Maybe it's Amari Cooper. I would love to add one more big name receiver. We brought in Tyler Conklin to pair with Will Dissly. Our tight ends are going to be decent. And then Oronde Gadsden, who I think was our fifth pick, tight end out of Syracuse, could be more of a seam stretcher down the field as well. So I think our offense is going to be improved. We have a couple more weapons, not as much as I would like, but the real big thing is improving that running game and being able to pound the rock. I think with Becton in there and Omarion and Najee, we're going to be able to really pound the rock. Then you look to the defensive side where, and this is what gives me more confidence, is our defense was, I think for a while, the number one ranked defense last year. You could certainly say that we overperformed a little bit. I think it's true, but our defense got a lot better. We got a lot more depth with Hand and Tart in the middle. We still got Khalil Mack, probably has one more good year in him. Tooley played great. We got Bud Dupree coming out. Dayan Henley is going to be one of the best middle linebackers in the league in the next couple of years. You heard it here first. Junior Colson's in there. Denzel Perriman's in there. We got a good linebacker core. And our cornerbacks from last year, the rookies, Cam Hart, Tahib Still, that's going to be a crazy cornerback duo. Those guys were incredible rookies last year. They're going to be better this year. We still have Derwin. We still have Gilman. We still have Molden for those three safety sets. I think our defense maybe didn't get much better, but should still be rock solid. And our offense got better. And I think, that addition of Becton with our running game is really going to be the difference maker. I think we make it to playoffs for sure. Could be another 10-7 record. Maybe we win 11. Super Bowl aspirations. I'm not so sure, but I think we'll definitely make playoffs again.
And with Harbaugh being your head coach, who traditionally
culture's changed for the better, for sure.
I'm going to run the football. All of these things line up, and I'm like, I definitely listen. This roster, we just say the names. Like, I get how you stand behind this roster. The GM, round of applause for the GM. He did his fucking job. Okay, he is killing. Like I said, do I think that the Bengals have a better roster than you? No. Do I think that they have a better head coach than you? No. Do I think the Colts have a better offensive line than or a roster than you? No. Do I think they have a better head coach? No. Until I see improve, man, I'm just telling you, I got 10 years of scars here. You remember at Killmonger, he had them little dots that showed all the kills? Well, mine are real scars, okay? You just cut me all the time, okay? So,
but I gotta say, I got the Bengals making playoffs too. I think they'll do it. The Colts?
We're talking about. Listen, we can get into the Colts now because now we got through all the segments. We can because we ain't get down.
Danny Dimes?
I can break that down for you. You see, if you would like. So I'll tell you what. So that'll be how we close out the show. Then we'll go ahead and finish, and then we'll close it out. We'll talk about my Colts real quick. If you would look up if you could just bring up the depth chart for the Indianapolis Colts right now, that would be very helpful.
I got you.
Just so you can see what I see. Okay. Now, once you get there, what you're going to notice is we have
Danny Dimes.
No, wait. Anthony Richardson's going to be the quarterback. He's going to be the quarterback. Anthony Richardson's going to be the quarterback. I was even just hearing stuff out of camp. Anthony Richardson has shown to be better than Daniel Jones. So Anthony Richardson's going to be the quarterback. Now the problem was with Anthony Richardson or us last year, because we missed the playoffs the last 2 years. With Gardner Minshew the first year, and then Anthony Richardson threw for 47% completion percentage last year. So, do you know what our records were both of those years when that happened? We had all-time bad quarterback. We were 9-8, 8-9. With all-time bad, that's what the roster's looking like, okay? So now we got 4 wide receivers. Nothing's just going to jump off your page, but as I told you, I actually like not having top 5 wide receivers on the roster.
You got a very solid receiver room.
I like being able to go 4 wide receivers deep. Now, also with our tight end that we just got, the tight end of Penn State,
Warren, man, yay, freak.
Warren, he's going to change a lot of defensive strategy what people are going to be able to do to stop us now. Okay, so now stuff is wide open. Still got Jonathan Taylor. Okay, we still going to be running. And then we brought in another running back too. I can't remember who's the running back we just brought in.
Khalil Herbert, and you drafted DJ Giddens.
Khalil Herbert and Gittin. So now we got three running backs too. So now it's not the load doesn't have to be all on uh Jonathan Taylor. Pause, by the way, on that. Sorry, fans.
I got
Uh,
you.
so that's that. Okay. So boom, our offensive line is great. Our offensive line is great. Our offensive line is great. Our offensive line. And the one thing, so people have been calling for Ballard's job. The one thing that I have loved about him is he can go in the fifth and sixth round and go get a starting offensive lineman. And I'm like, wow. That like he's all there's not going to be any big names, but they're all really good. Even the backups are really good. We have depth, okay? So I'm a fan of our offensive line. Now when we talk about the defense, if you look at those cornerbacks, Jalen number 40, I can't think of his name. Jalen Jones, he's going to be our number 2 cornerback. He might even be our number 3 cornerback because the guy Wiley that we drafted, that he drafted in the 4th round, is looking like he's the second guy. And then we add Charvarius
Tarvarius Ward's good, man. Yeah.
Juju Brents is our 4th cornerback. Okay, so not only do we have depth at wide receiver, we have depth at our cornerback position. Linebackers, we don't have the best linebackers, but Zaire Franklin is very good at stopping the run. His pass defense is a little different, but stopping the run, he's very good. Now, DeForest Bunker, we got our other defensive tackle as well. So I'm trying to do this off the cuff. I wasn't prepared for Colts today.
I got you, bro. You got Buckner. He's old though, but he's still good. Quiddy Pay is good. Linebackers all right.
And then we still got Liatu Latu. Liatu Latu is about to go off this year, bro. He's about to listen to me. 10 sacks this year. 10 sacks this year for Liatu Latu. Okay? And that's how we gonna make the playoffs. 9-8. 9-8 with 47% completion percentage from your quarterback is wild. If he gets to 55%, there's one more game we're gonna win. That's 10 wins right there. Playoffs. I'm telling you, you think we far off of something that we was right there for.
We'll see. We'll see.
I
don't trust that quarterback room at all.
We'll see.
I love your receiver depth. Taylor's a beast. The offensive line, I think, is kind of middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm.
Defense is middle of the pack.
Mm-hmm. Until Liatu gets 10 sacks, and all of a sudden that defense is going to be a little better than the middle of the pack. Okay,
we'll see in November.
I can't wait to talk about it then. All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. Of course, you can always see the full episodes on YouTube and Spotify. You can catch the reels on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Bro, we all over the place. Jeremy, bro, you came on. Do you know what you just did today when you came on here? Do you have any idea the heat that you just laid out?
I was so excited, man. I was preparing for this. This is NFL. NFL is my second love, man. It's
man,
I love it.
You went crazy. And unfortunately, this is how we gotta wrap up the show with me saying unfortunately, cuz you don't know football. Jeremy, man, I can't wait for you to come back again, man. Please don't make this the last time. You got a home here. Anytime you want to come back on here, man.
Absolutely not. You let me know. We're doing a November episode for sure to go back through all this, but I'll come on whenever, man. I love it. I'll talk football all day.
Did you watch the Martin show growing up?
No, I don't think so.
Martin Lawrence, well, he used to say on his radio show, he said, "I'm gonna see you when I see you. Peace." That's how we wrap it up here.
I love it, man.